The Tibetan Book of the Dead. Part 9. Natural Liberation of Fear Through the Ritual Deception of Death. I bow down to the glorious Transcendent One, Vajrakumara, whose face frowns with wrath. The methods by which death can be averted and postponed should now be explained in order that living beings might be released from suffering, and in order that all the unremitting and extremely bitter sufferings of death in particular might be dispelled by Mahakarunika. For the sufferings of all such beings who are afflicted by the discomforts associated with death may be completely curtailed through ritual means. It is the case that for some children of Buddha nature, the signs of death will arise when looked for, as described in the previous chapter. The esoteric instructions for averting the signs which indicate the swiftly approaching year or month of death consist of both the general consolidated rite and specific rites. General consolidated rite for averting death. The general rite for averting death is applicable in cases when the lifespan is threatened by obstacle-causing forces and imbalanced elemental forces. Now, the body of a person acts as a supporting frame for the 5 elements, and it naturally comprises 5 appendages, 5 sense organs, 5 solid viscera, 5 hollow viscera, and 5 great energy channels. In each of these anatomical parts, the 5 elements circulate in a clockwise manner, and the cessation of life can occur due to external circumstances, or one could die through the mingling of conflicting internal elements, or life could also cease through the agency of a severe obstacle-causing force. The time of death may be ascertained by actually observing the respective signs associated with these 3 causes of death, as and when they manifest. Immediately following the initial experience of such signs, one should perform the appropriate rites for averting death, which include ceremonies, services, and exorcisms. In this regard, one should know that of the 12 months of the year, 2 are ruled by each of the 5 elements, while the 2 remaining months are ruled by all 5 elements in common. Also, within each of these months of the year, there is a 5-day period ruled by each of the 5 elements, while the 5 remaining days are ruled by all 5 elements in common. The signs of death cannot be averted, however, when an imbalanced elemental or malevolent force completely controls the body. Just as, for example, if fire breaks out in a tall fortress, it is more easily averted while it is first confined within the lower story, but should it reach the top of the fortress, the fire cannot be extinguished. A person in whom the signs of death have manifested should first make preliminary offerings to the spiritual teacher and to the 3 precious jewels, and accumulate as much merit as possible. Then the ritual for averting an imbalance in the elements should be effected through the agency of the wheels and seed syllables of the elements. This should be done as follows. First, draw a series of wheels representing the elements on Indian paper or palm leaf. The representation of the green wheel of the wind element should depict 4 spokes and a circumference, with 5 yam syllables inscribed, 1 on each spoke and 1 at the center, and with the vowels and consonants depicted on the outer circumference. The red wheel of the fire element should be similar in design, with 4 spokes, etc., but inscribed with 5 ram syllables, placed as before, and the vowels and consonants on its circumference, all placed as before. Similarly, the yellow wheel of the earth element should be depicted with 5 lam syllables, the white wheel of the water element with 5 kam syllables, and the azure wheel of the space element with 5 e syllables. Then, on each of these inscribed wheels, one should visualize the deities who embody the nature of these elements, corresponding in color to their respective wheels. Then one should make 5 offerings, one to each of these deities, confess all negativity, and pray for one's desired purpose. After this, recite the seed syllables of the individual deities, the appropriate number of times, corresponding to the age of the person in years, and visualize that the seed syllables are then absorbed into the respective deities. Then, each of the depictions of the elemental wheels should be placed inside containers made from 2 small bowls of dough, which are sealed together and bound with threads of 5 colors, forming the pattern of a cross. In addition, a dough effigy at the subject's human form should be prepared, 1 cubit in height. The dough should be mixed with wood, water, fire, earth, and the breath of different species of sentient beings. Depictions of the same 5 seed syllables should then be inserted into the 5 corresponding sense organs of this effigy. As for the substances to be used for the ritual deception of the malevolent forces which cause death, create substitutes, which may be made either of red minium clay or else from dough, which is then painted. These should all be equal finger widths in size, black, red, yellow, white, green, and multicolored, corresponding in number to the age of the subject. These should be mixed with the subject's grime, clothing, nasal mucus, saliva, tears, hair, fingernails, and so forth, as well as with ground jewels or precious substances. They should then be adorned with 5 colored wool threads and various silks, and also decorated with many sorts of bird feathers, which are indicative of bad omens. Each substitute should then have a terma offering prepared, corresponding to it in color, and it should be surrounded by a number of dough changbu offerings, equaling the subject's age in years. Then consecrate all these with the 6 mantras and 6 gestures, and repeat the following words. Take them, O mighty malignant ones, your craving, your attachment, your clinging, your memories, your grasping, your thoughts, your contact. Let go of them, be pacified, and be free. Then, together with the bowls containing the elemental wheels, cast these substitutes into the torrent of a wide river. Death will thereby be averted for up to 3 years. It is best, therefore, if this rite is performed once every 3 years, even before the indications of death have occurred. Specific rites for averting death. I bow down to the deity Mahakarunika, who is a sanctuary of great bliss. The methods employed in the specific rites for averting death are now presented. Ritual averting of signs of near death. For all these rites which follow, it is best if the subject's own spiritual teacher can be present, or alternatively a sympathetic friend. They should empower the 5 sense organs of the subject with the seed syllables of the elements. Then, in cases when the fingernails become lusterless, as described in the previous chapter, a religious feast should be offered to 7 monks. Donations should be offered, and one should receive the Buddhist vows, wearing yellow clothes. If one has already taken these vows, one should retake them. Thereby, death will be averted. Similarly, in cases when the cornea of the eyes begins to fade, small terracotta imprints of white earth should be molded, their number equaling the subject's own age in years. After 7 circumambulations of the terracotta imprints, cast these into a lake or river, and then retreat, taking a number of paces equal to the subject's age in years, while reciting the heart mantra of dependent origination and not looking back. In cases when the hair of the nape of the neck grows upwards, one should prepare a dough with black seeds, and use this to make a substitute effigy, 1 cubit in height. Into its heart, one should then insert a number of crushed berries, equaling the subject's age in years, and attach a label bearing the subject's own name. The hair should be made from the subject's cut hair. Blood should be drawn from the subject's body and smeared on its face. It should then be wrapped in the subject's clothing and smeared with black pigment. Then, at 121 paces from the subject's own dwelling, one should dig a triangular dark pit and recite Ram, the seed syllable of the element fire, a number of times equaling the subject's age in years. Then repeat the following words 3 times. Black demon, take this effigy. This is important. This is important. Then throw it into the pit, defecate upon it, cover it with earth, and run away. Then one should re-examine the above sign of death. If it persists as before, the rite will not have been effective, and need not be repeated. However, there is no doubt that if other associated signs have not been completely averted by a single performance of the rite, they will be successfully averted following 3 such performances. In cases where the indication of protruding ankle bones appears, one should face westwards towards the sun when it is close to setting, and remove one's clothes. Then, placing a dog's tail under you, and some excrement in a heap in front, one should eat a mouthful and bark like a dog. This rite should be repeated 3 times. Also, in cases when other people are afflicted by illness, if the roots of their teeth grow grimy and black, such a person should wear a goat skin, face the sunrise, and bleat 3 times like a goat. Similarly, in cases when the nostrils sag inwards, it will be beneficial if one visualizes the syllable ah on the tip of the subject's nose, recites the syllable ah 21 times, and bathes in various rivers. In cases when the limbs are subject to repeated spasms, it will be beneficial if one draws a 4-spoked wheel on each of the limbs with a solution of shellac and bathes a number of times, equaling the subject's age in years, in consecrated water over which many dharani mantras have been recited. In cases when the eyes stare fixedly, one should prepare a bountiful religious feast on behalf of the monastic community, and hold a party for a number of children, equaling the subject's age in years. One should also wear red clothing. In cases when the right cheek sags inwards, for the rites of the earth element, one should mold a number of small terracotta imprints, equaling the subject's age in years. For the rites of the water element, one should make a number of water libations, equaling the subject's age in years. For the rites of the fire element, one should make a number of burnt offerings, equaling the subject's age in years. For the rites of the wind element, one should erect a number of flags, equaling the subject's age in years, and for the rites of the space element, one should recite a number of syllables, A, equaling the subject's age in years. Thereby, there is no doubt that death will be ritually deceived. In cases when the breathing becomes agitated, it will be beneficial, and death will be averted, if one makes a concentrated paste of molasses over which yam, the seed syllable of the wind element, has been recited. In cases when the nose tilts to the right or left, one should visualize a white syllable hom on the tip of the nose. In cases when tears flow uncontrollably, one should visualize the syllable brum on the subject's eyes. In cases when the left cheek sags inwards, one should visualize the syllable ksha on the cheek. In cases when the teeth become locked, one should visualize the syllable hum on the teeth. If a black spot appears on the tongue, one should visualize the short syllable hum on the tongue. If the ears lie flat against the head, one should visualize the syllable mam on the ears. If the xiphoid of the chest is sagging inwards, one should visualize the syllable mum on the xiphoid. In cases when the pulse of the carotid arteries is missing, one should visualize the syllable hum on those arteries. These visualized symbols should be recited as many times as equals the subject's age in years, and they should also be drawn on the appropriate point of the body, using vermilion and scented water. Ritual averting of the signs of remote death. Similarly, when an examination is made of one's reflected image optically projected onto the sky, if the symbolic handheld implement is missing, one should perform 108 feast offerings on behalf of one's spiritual teacher. If the right hand is missing, one should prepare a dough effigy, 1 cubit in height, using 7 kinds of grain. The head should be fashioned to resemble an open-jawed lion, and a number of gull feathers should be inserted into it, equaling the subject's age in years. The effigy should then be carried down a main street towards a royal manor, which is located to the north. In cases when the left hand is missing, one should place the fang of a black-striped tiger and the fang of a black dog inside a weasel skin. On top of that, one should place a doe effigy, kneaded together with the subject's own urine, and then ritually expel the effigy by throwing it into a river. In cases when the right leg is missing below the knee, death will be averted if, at dusk as the sun is setting, one offers a number of acacia or juniper lamps, equaling the subject's age in years. In cases when the left leg is missing, one should make an effigy of white earth, 1 cubit in height, and insert into its heart a birchwood stick, 4 finger-widths in length, marked with notches, equaling the subject's own age in number. It should be carried off at daybreak and left in an empty quadrangle. In cases when the right part of the head is missing, one should compound various kinds of inauspicious earth with the fruits of black wood trees, and out of this mixture make a black amulet, into which the subject's own hair and clothing fragments should be inserted, along with a label made from mountain willow wood, inscribed with the names of the 12 animal year signs. Then the amulet should be sealed, and a number of thorns of different species should be attached to its upper face. If one can find as many differing types of thorn as equals the subject's age in years, it would be best. Otherwise, if one cannot find that many, one should insert as many differing types as one can find. Then, at midnight, one should put on black clothing and carry the amulet to a cemetery. In cases when the left part of the head is missing, one should make a dough effigy using 25 different types of grain and insert fragments of human bones, horse bones, and dog bones into its heart. Then one should wrap the effigy in the subject's old clothing, and at twilight on the 11th day of the lunar month, one should give it to another person for insertion into a pit, which has been made 80 paces to the south. At that time one should cry out, proclaiming one's sorrows 3 times, and bury the effigy. Thereupon death will be averted. In cases when the head is missing above the neck, one should make a number of burnt offerings using thorn bushes, equaling the subject's age in years, and burn them in succession. While each of these is burning, the heart mantra syllable of fire, Ram, should be recited for a number of times equaling the subject's age in years. In cases when the head and the neck are missing, one should blacken one's body with burnt charcoal and bind one's hair up on the crown of the head. Then, on a piece of paper, 4 finger-widths in size, one should write the subject's age and the name of the present year, and around this, in the 4 cardinal directions, one should inscribe the seed syllables of the 4 elements. This paper simulacrum should then be attached to the nose, and at noon on the 9th day of the lunar month, one should run in each of the 4 directions, shouting out uninterruptedly, "You take this, you take this." Then the paper should be buried in a charnel ground. In cases when the upper trunk is missing, one should light a wood fire and burn a label inscribed with the names of the 12 animal year signs. In cases when the lower trunk is missing, it will suffice if one goes to a charnel ground and uses the assorted bones one finds to make smoke. In cases when the right side of the body is missing, one should recite the Dharani mantra of Ushnisha Vijaya as many times as equals the subject's age in years, and one should mold a number of small terracotta imprints equaling the subject's age in years. In cases when the left side of the body is missing, one should read aloud countless Dharani mantras and wear red clothing. Ritual averting of further signs of near death. In cases when the severing of the bond between atmosphere and earth occurs, one should read aloud the extensive scriptures or complete a number of virtuous acts. In cases when the fall of a rider on a white lioness occurs, it will be beneficial if one performs as many mandala rituals as equals the subject's age in years. If the rupturing of the wish-granting tree occurs, one should know the cures for each of the ailments affecting the solid and hollow viscera. In cases when urine scum appears reddish-blue, one should fashion a dough effigy of the 12 animal year signs, with their elements, and for each subsequent change in the color of the urine scum, one should make a single terracotta imprint, a single water libation, a single substitute effigy of the subject, and a single burnt offering of birchwood. Then, at sunrise, one should carry these off to a cemetery in the northeast. In cases when the urine vapor is blackish and putrid, one's purpose will be achieved if one mixes powdered iron and copper with various grains and scatters this mixture in the 4 directions. In cases when the vapor is red and spotted, one should make a number of substitutes imbued with the subject's own body odor, equaling the subject's age in years, and attach a red silk flag and a porcupine quill to each. Death will be averted if one carries these off, together with assorted bones, to a main road in the east. In cases when one's own excrement has no vapor, one should face the west at a time when the sun is at its peak, and inscribe the elemental seed syllables on the skull of a horse. Death will then be averted if one neighs as many times as possible. In cases when the humming sound, normally heard when the ears are cupped, is absent, one should prepare a number of terma offerings of various foods, equaling one's age in years, and attach a label to each of these, bearing the names of the 12 animal year signs. One's purpose will be achieved if one then conveys these terma offerings to the foot of a palm tree. In cases when the sign known as one-legged Javati, arising as an enemy against the leaves of the wish-granting tree, occurs, one will be liberated from the indications of death if one perseveres in the accumulation of merit and engages in virtuous activities. Conclusion. After the rituals have been performed according to the above instructions, one should look again for the visual indications of death. If the nature of their appearance has altered, the indications will undoubtedly be averted if the rites are repeated from 7 to 21 times, or a number of times equaling the subject's age in years. This completes the esoteric instruction concerning the ritual aversion of death, which was composed by the master Padmasambhava as a means of liberating sentient beings from their sufferings. may it be encountered by one of worthy past actions. Samaya, Ja Ja Ja. This is a treasure teaching revealed by the treasure finder, Karma Lingpa.